Okay, Brad, this is Will, and here's young Steve.
Hi, Brad.
We are going to give you a tour of the operation of the 190SL. And here's Steve to tell you all about the dash knobs.
Alright, I guess we'll start out, first off we'll start out with your gauges, just on account of cuz. Obviously your tachometer, it says RPM, speedometer, miles per hour, oil pressure in pounds per square inch, coolant temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, and your fuel gauge over here on the right. And that's all it is. This is a clock, but I don't even know that works or it's even hooked up. Alright, and then we go into the actual knobs that you're going to use. Starting here on the left, I'm going to turn the key on so we have a little bit of power here. This knob is the booster knob for the heater blower motor. You pull the knob out and it turns on the fan to blow the air into your footwell.
But only for the driver.
Only for the driver's side, yep. The passenger just gets what they get. We move through, let's see, we'll go through these controls first. Here on this knob here is for the hot choke, for hot start purposes. All intents and purposes, you don't need this on this car and it doesn't function, so you'll never touch that. This knob here turns on and off the dash lights. Out is dash lights on, in is dash lights off. This will only work when the headlights are on.
So we leave it out, just leave it out all the time.
Right. The next one over here, this is your choke for hot and cold starting, just a manual choke, and it will turn on when the ignition is on. When you pull the lever out, it will illuminate this white light right here. That'll let you know that the choke is pulled and help you remember to push it back in. Obviously you have your ignition key. Next to the ignition key is the windshield wipers. You have two speeds. First click out is low, second click out is high. Those are for emergency use only. If you failed to plan ahead completely and you end up caught in some rain, drive to shelter and try to use them as little as possible. They're kind of a weak link on the car.
They are the worst possible wipers ever invented.
They mostly just smear the water back and forth, not necessarily get it out of your way. And then you have your cigar lighter here.
Underneath the white.
Okay, and then down here, this little magic knob down here is for your windshield washers, and it's just a pressure bulb. You just push it in and it sprays. Totally manually operated.
But it works.
But it works. It actually works pretty well. Right at dead center in the middle here, this knob here is for the fuel petcock. If I pull it, we'll give you the operation there.
It's hard to see where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, give it another. Alright, good. And that selects for, you have two fuel lines going into this filter right here. This is a fuel filter. You got two fuel lines going in there, and what he's pulling selects from your normal to your reserve.
Right, under normal circumstances, the knob is all the way in, and you have a fuel gauge on this car. This is a remnant from when the cars didn't have a fuel gauge like old motorcycles. You just ran it until it ran empty, then you put it on reserve, and that gave you a couple of gallons to limp to a gas station. So under normal circumstances, you'll never operate this, but we're just telling you what it is so that you know, so that if you encounter anything, then you're not surprised. Alright.
Handbrake and hood.
Yeah, handbrake is this lever right here, all the way out, sets the handbrake, and then if you just twist it, you have to take the tension off by pulling it, and then just twist it down. It'll feed back in under spring pressure and release. And then this is your hood release right here.
So as he pulls that, it operates up here.
Right.
And so a little bit of oil wouldn't be bad every once in a while here. Hey, how you doing? I'll let you continue. I will take care of him.
Oh.
Hey, good to see you.
Okay, so now we're going to go with your headlights. Your headlight switch. First position to the right is your parking lights. Second position to the right is your headlights. And this will cover you under 90% of the applications. When you have your headlights on, down here in the footwell is the magic button. You can see with my toe, that's the standard old high beam, low beam dip switch. That'll set you from high beam to low beam. On this car, since they park on the street in Europe, it has what they call standing lights. And if you turn the headlight switch backwards, then it puts it into standing light mode, and then this little toggle switch here will turn on the parking lights on either the left side of the car when it's to the left, or the right side of the car when it's to the right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it back on the left, and then we'll just walk out, and you'll see we walk to the front of the car that the left light is on, and the right light is not. The same for the rear. The left light is on, and the right light is off. And they just do that so that when they're parked on the street, people don't run into them at night, and it doesn't run the battery as dead as quickly. Alright, next I guess on the list, when you're operating your vehicle, your turn signals are actually in the horn ring. You have these handy little tabs here, and you turn the actual horn ring itself left and right to turn on the left and right turn signals, and when the turn signal's on, you'll get an indicator up here in the dash that flashes with the turn signals. And then of course you press it and it honks.
Did you do this already?
Oh.
That is not your turn. This is not your turn signal.
Yeah, this is not your turn signal. This is your flash to pass. This is if you're driving the car. If you turn this on, it will flash the high beams just like.
Good. I think you can hold it down. It should operate them, but okay. Yeah, just you hold it down and they're illuminated, and then you release. Okay.
That's for when you're going down the Autobahn at warp speed and you want to make somebody get out of your way.
Get those little Fiat 600s out of your way.
Right. What else we have on the dash? Obviously your map light. When it's all the way up, it's on. You can use it for reading. When it's halfway, it's operated by the door switch, and it turns off and turns on with the door switch. Oh, the door switch is gimpy. There it goes.
It's got a
dirty contact. You can see it flashing there.
I did see it. Depends on its mood.
Yep.
If you want us to install a new door switch, we can do that. Otherwise,
yeah. That's your map light. Alright, on the heating system, this controls the left side of the car. This is basically airflow. It has the blue triangle here. Narrow is the direction that's closed. Wide is the direction that's open. And this will control, this lever controls, opens and closes the defrost duct on the driver's side. And this lever opens and closes the footwell flap on the driver's side. So all the way left, you know, narrow side of the arrow is no air. All the way right, wide side of the arrow is full air. And most of the time you have these open because you're warmer than you are cold. Here in the middle is the levers for the heater valves. The top lever is for the driver's side heater. Bottom lever is for the passenger side heater.
They show them what they're moving here, and that's why you want to be nice with these things, because you're moving a lot of cable. This is, you know, all this cable runs into the dash where you're operating, and so you want to, if they're not operating properly, address the cable or something before you go wrenching on them.
And again, narrow side is off, wide side is on. So right now, all the way to the left, both are off. And then on the right side, you have the same apparatus. Top is the defrost, bottom is the footwell. And these are currently both full on. What else?
You do have a day-night mirror. Not that it matters a great deal, but they were pretty amazing to have day-night in that time.
Right. What else can we think of? I think that's about it as far as operations at the moment. The only other thing is, your car is an early car that has the octane adjuster. This actually is connected to the distributor and is used to adjust the ignition timing.
Well, you're actually moving it. I'll show them it works, but it's not necessarily something you need to mess with. So this was a remnant from when you could get poor gas, like if you went down to Mexico or you got out in the boonies and had some really bad gas, you could retard the ignition, correct?
Yep. Okay. But we have it set where, you know, if you won't hurt anything by adjusting this, but if you never touch it, that's fine too, because there shouldn't be any circumstance that you would ever need to adjust this. I guess next we'll do another one for under the hood.
All right. Well, how about if we do starting the car and fuel, because we're gonna show them about the priming lever, and as we checked earlier, you're gonna need to bump the engine over.
Let's wrap this one up so we don't end up with a 20-minute video.
Well, this is 11 minutes, so we can...
Well, how much time you got on YouTube?
20 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Maybe 25, maybe 30.
All right. Well, to start the vehicle, we'll make sure it's in neutral.
All right. Well, what you need to do, if this car's been sitting for a while, is you need to come in and prime the fuel system with the priming lever on the pump. But it works off of a cam, and right now the cam is in the off or low position, so you get no resistance right here. So what Steve is going to do is bump the engine over. Now hit another lick. One more. Well, we got fuel in there, so it doesn't do any good. Anyway, what you'll do is you'll hit the engine pump it over to, at one point you're going to get resistance on this lever. And when you don't have resistance, that means you're either off the cam or got fuel in the system, so it really doesn't matter at this point. In other words, it's holding fuel, so we're doing okay. You see that added a little choke.
Yep, that adds a little fuel, and it also raises the idle speed up just a smidge. Just to help it warm up, because engine's cold. Got good oil pressure.
Yeah, 90 is correct, and anything above idle RPM, you'll normally be up to 90, and hot idle, you're going to be running 45, 50, 60. So the high oil pressure is normal on this car.
Yeah. Anything else inside?
Can't think of anything else. Not much else to mess with in there. Anything you want to tour around before we go driving? The engine bay?
Show him right quick. You showed him the primer. This is brake fluid. Just use a standard .3 brake fluid, nothing fancy.
And it is normal for this poorly designed steel can to seep fluid, so just come in here and mop up the fluid that's going to collect in the rim.
Occasionally it's worth checking these nuts. These are just manual knobs that hold down the valve cover, and sometimes they'll vibrate a little bit loose. Yeah, this is your fuse box. This little nub here is small, but you can get enough purchase with your finger to unscrew it. It's just a standard screw, and there's all your fuses in there.
All white 8 amp.
Yep, it shouldn't be anything other than the white 8 amp fuses. That's all this car ever came with. The only other thing I think of, your dipstick is right down there. It's that red one there underneath the... This is your engine oil dipstick. And this big can right here is the crankcase breather, deal. And it's worth checking your oil every now and again. And it's just got the standard, min and max. Nothing fancy.
You'll be using 30 weight for the most part, or 10-30, depends on your climate, but
right.
Either one would be acceptable.
I don't think there's anything really you need to know on the...
Let's see, we did upgrade the air filter, so it's a washable air filter, but that shouldn't be necessary to
deal with for a long time.
Right.
No real particular.
That's it. Well, tell you what, I'm going to, okay, how about we stop it so it won't be too terribly long, and then we'll do one for driving,
Okay.
because I'm going to get my sunglasses.
All right.